My name is Eddie C, and welcome to my Positive Podcast. I'll bring you positive stories of people from all walks of life, because everyone has a story to tell. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to MPP, my Positive Podcast. And I'm your host, Eddie C, and this is episode 27. Well, I know it's been quite a while since I've released an episode, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that I've been quite busy with a few other projects, which include my music and my photography. But nevertheless, I'm back with a new series. I've changed the formula a little bit, so I'm going to only interview one guest, but in this way we can go a little deeper and longer into conversation, and it will give me the opportunity of releasing episodes on a more frequent basis. We're now in the autumn part of the year, and the weather is starting to slowly change and it's getting cooler and starting to get cozy inside, as we say. And one of the subjects that I like to touch on was how the village is. And when I refer to a village, basically I'm talking about the people that you're in contact with on a regular basis, you know, and that you have the most contact with outside of your family, your friends, your neighbors, people that you run into maybe at the shops that you go to on a regular basis. And that's what I'm talking about with the village. But we'll go deeper into that as we get into the show. There's one thing that is very important, I think, this time of year is the fact that, you know, we need to communicate more with each other. And of course, we'll touch up on social media. And my first guest that I'm going to have on is a guy that was actually on my very first show. So if you're curious, tune in, relax, and stay positive. My name is Eddie C, and you're listening to my Positive Podcast. All right, my first guest on the new series of MPP is actually one of the first guests that I had on the show, and we go way back from the time that we were kids. Please welcome my next guest, Mr. Keith Foster. How you doing, buddy?
Fantastic, man. How are you, and how's everyone tuning in and listening?
Oh, I guess everybody's doing okay. I'm doing fine, man. It's great to talk to you again.
Always great talking to you.
I remember the whole podcast started with a conversation with you.
Right, and that's something. So why not do it again? I'm looking forward to it next time round two with you.
That's it, man. We're back around, full circle, as they say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, how are things since the whole COVID period?
Things, as you know, it's opening up a lot more now, and still has some minor restrictions, but nothing really major. You know, and I stayed on top of my shots and everything. Life has been pretty good. You know, all things, you know, relative. You know, other than, you know, the losses that many of us had to deal with, and with family members and friends and the economy and everything. But things are slowly getting back on track here in our area. So things are pretty good, man. No complaints here. No complaints. Still being careful, but, you know, still having the opportunity to get back out there again.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. What I was wondering is that, you know, last time we spoke, of course, we had a basic theme that all my guests did. And now with the new setup, we're basically going back in contact with each other, doing a revisit, you know, as my listeners who heard the first podcast with you, you know, they know you're an ex-police officer and you have a jazz station together with some friends. And how is that going? Of course, I've been following the station and I listen to it periodically.
Still going well, man. It's still going well. We're still doing, our objective was to just put out music that maybe people were not hearing on their particular or respective radio stations, you know, just trying to be a little bit different. And that's what's been happening. And people have been receptive to us. And it's just a love. It's nothing we're trying to get rich off of, brother. We just love the music and just putting it out there and sharing with the artists, because the artists deserve to get their music heard and people deserve to hear it.
Absolutely.
That's our objective. Yeah.
Well, you know, I'm always about getting it out there. I mean, I've posted quite a few things myself on the station. Yeah. And I always appreciate the love you all throw out there to make sure that it gets spreaded around, you know. And
but let me interrupt you on something right quick. I want to say something to you as well. Thank you so much for saying you sent so many people our way. Our membership on the social media page has grown greatly in our listenership because of people you've been turning on to us. So, man, we appreciate the love of that, dude. Really.
Oh, well, that's, I just put out what I'm receiving, man. That's
Gotcha.
all,
Gotcha.
That's how I go. Speaking of the subject, I decided with the new show to take one artist, and we're going to basically touch on one main subject and basically get to know a little bit more about what each of my guests are doing now as what they did a few years ago, of course, would be during the COVID period.
Right.
So I know in your posts we've spoken a lot about, and I see you post your quotes from time to time and your statements,
Mm-hmm.
And being a brother from Gary, we just say how it is,
Yeah. Ain't no chasing.
That's right.
Ain't no chasing.
And we're from a generation where it took a village to raise a child.
Absolutely.
And I know that you still follow those concepts back overseas. And so I want to ask you basically, how are you doing that now in your community?
Well, other than, my social media posts and getting those things out there, my biggest objective is to continue to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community. In other words, letting them know that we're just a part of them. We're not people coming in dealing with situations. Law enforcement, fire, medical, all that needs to be part of the community. And also with regards to that, my biggest thing is allowing people in the community to kind of not necessarily police their own neighborhoods, but getting back to that old adage where, when we were growing up, brother, everyone knew the neighbors, we interacted with each other. There were parties in the neighborhood, picnics and things of that nature. And I think through the decades, things have changed and people have got a little more reclusive and and I think some of that has to do with, I mean, be honest with you, social media, because it's so easy to pick up your phone or a laptop and interact with somebody, but that personal connection, I think, is what's gotten us apart. So my thing, what I like to do is see if you can't get the community back to loving on each other, knowing each other. And if that happens, I really believe we can get everything back on track. I really do, especially with this younger generation.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that as well here in Europe. They're basically the kids, the younger generation, they can't go anywhere without a telephone in their hand. And we've created a society that you can't even go out your door without a telephone because if you miss a call or that can mean work for you. And we're so hacked on our electronic devices that it's become almost a necessity to carry it.
Yeah, right. And I must admit, we need it. Don't get me wrong. Well, because it allows us to have access to information. Like if you need to Google something, and we can pull that up, and like you are able to connect via social media from time to time. We can't physically be with each other. We can still connect that way.
Absolutely.
But I think sometimes we and I can raise my hand to this too. I have been guilty as well.
And me too.
Spend so much time there, man. So I'm just periodically, I pick up now the phone and call someone just out of random. Just say, how you doing, man? I know we just talked on Facebook last night, but how are you doing? And my sister, just that's how it's got to do.
Right.
Okay, that's how it is.
I find it very important as well that I have the podcast, and of course, I've been sporadic with the shows the last few months, basically because I started gigging again. And you get at one point caught up in all of the things that you need to do on a daily basis. And it's always kind of good to touch back with people from time to time. That's the one thing I do like about social media as far as touching base with, back in the States with you all and being able to read a message, be able to call each other from time to time and say, hey, how you doing?
Absolutely.
And that's so important. Yeah. And I kind of miss the fact that I guess we can say a lot of the young generation don't know what it is to commute with each other face to face. It seems to all be on a very close basis of we've got our telephones, we can talk.
Right.
And I can imagine if we would have had this pandemic without the technology that we had now, it would have been probably a more difficult thing, especially for the younger people. And I'm not trying to put them down because they're the future.
Yeah, and this is what they grew up with. Just like we grew up with different things. This is their network. This is what they're growing up with. So it's not really, I don't think either one of us are really bashing them for it. We're just acknowledging the difference in the generations. That's all.
Right.
So you got to find a way to keep the communication now.
Absolutely. And I think it's very important now. The whole social media system has made our world smaller.
Mm-hmm.
There's been wars and famine and diseases actually since we can remember and before our time. Of course, now with social media, they're able to magnify that. I think that sometimes creates a fear factor for a lot of people. And so it's very important that we have that communication with each other directly.
Yeah, you should take full advantage of it, man. But hey, let me run this by you too. Now, we're still on the same topic. I'm not getting off of it. Let me tell you the plus that I've had with regards to social media and Zoom calling and things of that nature. I have a good friend of mine named Gail Ortega, and he reached out to me via email once. Like a mass email, basically asking if anybody wanted to be interested in joining him in a book club. And I like reading, so that was a no-brainer for me. So I got on that, and we have this book club where we meet every Wednesday at 7 Eastern time over here. But the great thing about the Zoom and the social media, here's what I'm going with this. 3 of the guys out in California, let me take that back. One just moved to Orlando, Florida.
Okay.
So 2 in California now. One's in Orlando, and 2 of us are here in Metro Atlanta area. But we're able to find a book that we like, and we'll read, and we'll connect. Man, I'm telling you, my wife makes sure I tune in every Wednesday with that, because she says that's like therapy for me. When I get a chance to we have a little nickname for ourselves. We call ourselves the Book Brothers, But
all right,
this would not have happened, man, if it not been for Zooming. I was Zooming because
like I said, it has a lot of advantages. I have it as well, being able to communicate, for example, with you, with family back in the States. It's in certain ways, it breaks the bridge gap for people to a certain degree, because say a lot of the older generation are not into all the little extra features that you can do with a smartphone to be able to communicate. So other than being able to call with each other, it's for them just a means of checking to see how you're doing to a degree. But on the other hand, I see it also in our daily lifestyles. You go nowadays, you can't talk to someone at all without first typing in on the computer and then answering a whole bunch of questions, before you, and then they ask you to send a mail. And if you make a phone call, you get this robot saying, please make the following choices, And before you know it, by the time you get there, then it turns out that the line is busy, and there's going to be at least 20 minutes waiting. And in the meantime, you're busy, and it creates a lot of frustration as well. And that was the thing. That's the one thing that I think, which is very aggravating for, let's say, our generation and older to a large degree, because of the fact that we were used to going to a bank, for example, and we stood in line, but you got a chance to talk to someone. You created a relationship with that person that you spoke to. If you needed to talk to someone at a firm or whatever, you were able to communicate personally with these people, which created more of a bond than what we sometimes have now. And so it's a double-sided coin, the whole social media thing. The heads part of it is the fact that it does make the world smaller and make situations like this possible. The tail side of it is that it also creates a more individualistic society as well. Because a lot of people, they put their earplugs in and they got their music, they don't even hear, they close themselves out from the world. And I think there's also a third factor. There's the fear factor, which has become a lot bigger. If you look at the news and you see what's happening on there,
they do, man.
It has given, I think, a lot of major companies that I won't mention the chance to manipulate what we see on television, how we react. We've created a whole reality lifestyle, in fact. And so people are waiting to see, is this person going to go through to the next round? And basically, there's a reality show from everything, from getting married to picking daisies in the garden or whatever, it's amazing. And this is where I sometimes miss that human element of what's real and what's not real. And we see it in politics. We see it in the things that we do. Going to a shop to buy something when back in the day when things were like crafted, very skillfully crafted with their hands, And now it's all robotic. It's all so it's moving fast. And I think as a society, we're moving much too fast. And one of the things you see with the climate change, how that's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell them there is a climate change, and there's some people are in denial about it, but there is global warming as far as I can see. You know, it really is. And you touched on something, or it was you just talking about, back to the reality shows real quick, something popped in my head. Sometimes I wonder how much is real reality and how much of it is constructed reality. In other words, if the plot isn't going where they need, okay, ladies, we need you to have a little cat fight about something so we can keep people entertained. So a lot of times people are drawn to the negativity, man. I'm not digging on that as well either. That's why I don't tune into those type of shows.
It's amazing. And even, I mean, for me, of course, I've always been a big fan of the Marvel stuff, you know, as kids, you know, with the comic books and everything, you know. But at the same time, the way movies are made now, for example, there's so much electronics to make everything look, you know, more realistic. I think one of the messages, I think you probably try to, when I see your village messages, you know, that you post on Facebook, for example, is that it's very important that we do not lose ourselves as spiritual minds and as human beings, you know, with that we're still physical, and we have a virtual world that's slowly caving in on us. So we're kind of living as a society in a cocoon, if you ask me, and some are living even deeper in a cocoon because it's in certain ways, a lot of people have become lazy and, you know, wanting to work. It's amazing that there's a large unemployment rate, but at the same time, there's a lot of jobs, and people are not going for those jobs that are probably talented for their jobs because they want to all retire at a very early age. Right.
We see that in restaurants, man. I go to a restaurant to pick up. Most of the times, I'm still getting most of my food to go and bring home and take it home. But there have been any number of times when I walked in and the service is so slow because I had a manager tell me one time, I've had several people just call off. The work ethic isn't in there. They don't want to come to work. Some don't. And I'm not making that a blanket statement about everyone. It's just that my experience has been here locally. That a lot of these restaurants, the reason the wait time is so long because they can't get staff. People don't want to come in, even though it's okay to come back now. Some have found other things to do, and they just not really interested in wait staff, waiting, and restaurants, things of that nature. So, man.
How do you personally see us in the next 5 years, for example?
I'm hoping what's going to happen, restaurants, different companies, that they're going to have to evolve and change too and fit into where the trend is going. And maybe they might have to do some things whereas they're reaching out to people in particular ways to generate an interest to come and do what they do at their jobs or whatever. Because that's what's going to have to happen because minds are changing. People realizing, okay, I don't necessarily have to go here, but we still have to make an income. That's a generational thing too, I've seen too. It's a lot of the younger ones, and I don't want to paint that broad brush again, but I've seen more than a few young 20-somethings. They're just not interested in going to work, man. They're so lackadaisical about it. You know, I have 3 daughters now. One's my oldest 39, my middle's 27, my baby girl's 21. And I have the conversations with them, particularly the one that's 27. And she says on her job sometimes, it's hard to retain work. So you got to find a way to bring the interest back to them. How that's going to be is hard for me to say right now. But they're going to have to find some kind of way to connect and do something with their careers, with these jobs, so that people want to be there.
Getting on that subject, it kind of surprises me as well that it seems like our society is we're getting actually beyond ourselves. And we're creating things so quickly that we're not able to keep up with what machinery is doing. So I always, I like the science fiction movies because there's a lot of truth in there. And it's almost like if you look at it, if you look over at the history of science fiction movies, for example, where we've been creating via movies our future without realizing it. And that sometimes intrigues me because I see things happening and I'm thinking, well, you know, I remember the time when we were kids and we used to watch the Jetsons. Yeah. And later on, the Star Trek came and you had the first flip phones. And now here we are. Yeah. Everything's in the palm of my hand. Dick Tracy, the watches, you know. So we've created, I think, via film and our fantasies, a world of technology, but at the same time, it's also digging into our personal fears. Yeah. I think of how we're kind of depleting our resources.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. That is true, man, because and there's controversy about that. And by controversy, I mean, say what do you think, the wind. I saw something on 60 Minutes last week talking about the, I forget what they're called now, man. They generate electricity, bro.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? And you have one hand, some people are all for that. And then you have others saying, yeah, but it's taking jobs from other people. So the contrast, man, it says you got to find a fine line, man. I'm telling you, got to find a fine line.
It's becoming more like if you're not part of a, let's say, computer generation. I see that, as an older person now, trying to find something on the internet. And I'm actually, I think for somebody my age, pretty much on top of a lot of the newer electronic things, and I'm just touching the tip of the iceberg. I'm not one of these nerdy types that's sitting behind a computer and typing the whole day and know all the scripts, but I do try to be able to find out and learn more about what's happening with the devices that I'm using. And I think there's a lack of that because it's going so fast every year. I mean, it used to be, the biggest thing used to be back in the day when we grew up was what the newest car was going to be like, which came out like every 2 or 3 years, there was a new model. And now it's like, when is the next smartphone?
Right. They get so outdated so quickly, man. I'm telling you, you think you got the bomb for about a year or two, and next thing you know, it's outdated almost. You want to get another one. Eddie, I want to touch on something too, but you mentioned something earlier talking about connections. I speaking for myself, man, I won't say I'm an overly religious person, but I grew up in the church, singing choirs, still do. But I see myself now as being more spiritual. And by that, I mean, you can go through church services and you can sing the hymns and this and the other. But if you're not taking that out to the community and loving on people and leaving it there, that's what I mean by spirituality thing with me. So I have my own personal connection with the Father I serve, right, and my meditation time and things of that nature. And that's what's getting me. I think this also really has me so tied in with this village mentality now, because the more I've gotten deep into that, the more I have a connection with people. And I have more empathy for people, not necessarily sympathy, but you can empathize with someone, what they're going through. Like, as long as we keep that personal connection, man, I think that's what's causing a lot of us to become distant, because we don't have that personal connection with people for whatever reason. And there's no telling, it could be the background, something that may have happened in their lives when you're younger or even as an adult. But if you can't connect with the next man or woman next to you, man, it makes life hard.
Absolutely. Well, personal connection is a very important thing. And I talk to people very easily. So when I'm sitting in the bus, I might get into a conversation with somebody I don't even know, just to find out, well, hey, listen, we're all coming from the same place. If you look at it, we're all connected. Yeah. And especially if you break everything down to the tiniest cell, we're all from the same existence, spiritually, mentally. And we have a different physical structure or facial structure or color structure. But at the end of the day, man, we're all the same. Right. And this is the one thing that is so important, I think, to bring across to the village, whatever village you're part of at that moment. And for me, it's like the global village. This is one of the reasons why I'm doing this show with a slightly different concept as in the beginning. Because I want to talk to my guests about, creating more of this global village initiative. I mean, years ago, you actually played some of my music in the Global Village music album I made, which was based on music from all around the world. So, and it's very important. I think that we all have our own ways of doing it, and some do it through music, some through the art. You have your way of doing it through the community, and it's such a wonderful thing that you're able to pass it through to the next person, to the neighbors, to the And I think when we decide to communicate more, we'll decide to make smarter decisions in the world. Because, I mean, let's be realistic. To a certain degree, we've got certain world leaders that I think like, wow, how did they get that position? And a lot of it has to do with the fact that our choices are, closing off from making the choices to to create a society that's going to be a lot more, let's say, communicative and more respectful to each other. You know, it's like the music has gotten louder, and we've closed ourselves off with our earbuds, and that idea of going to a cafe or being in a social gathering. Those things, sure, they exist. But for a large part, you see people go to a festival and it's a great happening, but are they really communicating with each other, or are they on their own self-high?
Right. Have you ever found yourself, man, sometimes people look at you, I know I've had it happen. They kind of look at me kind of strange because I'm like a lot like my father was. He didn't meet strangers, basically. Like you, I strike up a conversation with a perfect stranger in a heartbeat. And it's so natural for me. And I have to realize sometimes I just have to be careful about doing that, because some people, okay, I don't know this guy. Why is he just striking up a conversation? Because we're in the same room, we're waiting on the doctor, and we're in the same lounge. Get out your phone. Let's talk a little bit.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Let's say, how would you like to see, let's say, the world in the next 5 years, as well as far as your vision to getting people to communicate more?
It starts internally with every individual. By that, I mean, let me speak for myself. I've had to learn some years ago that sometimes I just had to get out of my own feelings and get out of my own way and realize just because I think a certain thing does not necessarily mean someone else is going to agree with me. So I've learned now to listen a lot more than I talk. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
Absolutely.
To make the message out and others to receive, and have more empathy toward other people. If we take the time really to look at another person's situation and hear them and feel them and then get it, and then hopefully they'll reciprocate and do the same thing for you. So to answer your question, is seeing things moving forward the next 5 years, I'm just hoping we can come together. That could be politically, because that's a big divide right there. That's a whole nother conversation right there. But a lot of it is because everyone wants their own thing and they do not want to concede and compromise. There's nothing wrong with compromise as long as you're not hurting yourself or hurting anyone else. So that's how I'm looking at it, brother. That's how I look at it.
All right. I'm with you on that all the way. Just before we close, is that I want to, first of all, thank you for coming on the show and being my first guest in the new series. And it's always wonderful to talk to you. I mean, if we could actually go deeper into things, which we'll probably do again. I'm sure I'm going to have you back again.
Oh, man.
As a regular guest, So, you're going to be one of the positive souls in MPP for sure, man.
Reach out to him, man. You know I'm here for you. I'm doing my best. Bro.
I just want to ask you one last question. What would be your advice to people now to change the future?
My advice would be, here's this. I'm glad you asked that one, because I think I might have an answer. This book club that I mentioned earlier, most of the books we've been reading have to do with our history. For example, the current book we're reading now is called Caste. And it talks about how in Germany, in America, and in India, how the caste system works to keep some people down as opposed to lifting others up, right? So I say all that to say this: unless we know where we've been and how we've lived in the past, because a lot of the stuff we're dealing with now, let's say racism, bigotry, just throw that out there. A lot of that is simply cultural conditioning. And that's something that has happened that people have learned through not just years, but centuries. And that's what they know. So to get out of that is, getting back to what I was saying earlier, get out of your own space, get out of your own feelings, and be receptive enough to hear somebody else's pain and passion, and then receive it and see what you can do to help about it. So then moving forward, you got to know where you come from, man. And that's why this book club I've been in now, these books we've been reading, man, has been phenomenal for me, because I've seen how far we've come, which lets me know we can go much further in the future because of what we've been through. And all we got to do is want to do it. You just got to want to do it, man. It's that want to. If you don't want to, it's not going to happen. But if you got a heart and you care about somebody, let somebody know about it. And keep it pushing, man.
Well, on those words, my brother, I would like to once again thank you for coming on the show and expressing your vision of basically how we see social media today and how we want to see it in the future.
Absolutely, bro. I'm glad you had me, man. And it's so easy to talk with you, brother. It's back to what we talked about, man. The energy thing I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
It's easy when two people kind of connect energy-wise. But that's how I think our conversations flow so well, bro. We don't have to sit our ham and a hum and what we're going to talk about. It just flows, man. It just flows. So thank you for having me.
It's a joy and a blessing to have you on the show, man. You listen, also, being able to talk to you and see how I'm proud of you, brother, man. You've been doing a lot over there, and you make a lot of things happening. And like I said, that's wonderful how the radio station is going, and it's bringing people together. That's another means of bringing. That's a good thing about social media as well. It brings people closer together. And as long as we learn to be in control of how we approach it and be ourselves within it and not use it as a tool to hide behind, I think that it would be, we'll be able to do a lot more in the future with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm right there with you, man. Right there with you. Hopefully next time we talk, and I hope we will, I will have some more to expound on about my community thing I'm trying to build, because I'm just about there. And that's what we talk on next time, man. Next time we get a chance to talk. I'm hoping to have some things in motion by the time we chit-chat.
I'm really, once again, very happy to see you doing well, man. And, wishing you and your loved ones all the best in the future. And
thank you.
Let's just keep spreading that positivity worldwide, man, and communicating with each other.
That's it. Eventually, there'll be more of us and less of them. By them, I mean negative.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. I love to you, bro.
Much love, man. You take care of yourself, man. Stay safe out there.
This is MPP, and I'm Eddie C. Well, I hope you enjoyed my conversation I had together with Keith. I know I did. Now, once again, I said I'm going to change the concept of the show a bit and get up a little bit more close and personal from my own opinion, my own views. And so we're starting with this particular episode. So let's touch back up on the village. I know growing up as a kid, our neighborhood was like a village. We spoke about it. People would know everything you did, but without getting too much into your personal business. But if you did something wrong, one of our parents would know, and the other parents would know as well. So it was sort of a kind of I guess you could say, a check system to make sure that everybody in our neighborhood was okay, especially when it came to the children. That was an important thing. And the elderly also, you checked on them. You went to visit older people. You listened to what they had to say because you could learn from their experiences. We've seen to lost a lot of that over the years as technology and social media has become more of the platform of our lifestyle and our society. It has, don't get me wrong now, it has some very, very good things, and it makes it possible for shows like this to happen. It makes it possible for people to get out there and communicate more and tell what they feel on their mind. That's a good plus side. On the other hand, there's also the other side where you get a lot of, let's say, misconceived ideas. A lot of people just throw anything on there just because they think it's funny or they think that it doesn't matter who sees it. And a lot of bad exposure is out there as well as good exposure. I believe that it's up to us as individuals to filter those things out. What you always see or what you always hear does not appear to be what it is. And that's why it's very important to get back in contact with people face to face, in contact with doing things together, in contact with, sometimes I won't say social controlling each other, but knowing a little bit about what's happening around you, because we all need each other. We all need each other to survive. We need each other to help lead the way. We need each other to teach our youth, to give our experiences to others. I find that very important. And I know if I didn't have those people in my life growing up as a child and even later on in my young adult years and even in my later adult years, not being able to communicate with people and learn from what I see and experience with them and from them, I would not be the person I am today. It's very important also to regroup what you do in life when it comes to social media. You can use it as something to be a door opener for a lot of things. And like I said, it's been for me in certain ways a big door opener with a lot of things. On the other hand, it can also be something that can work against you. And this is where you need to filter out what you listen to, what you see. And also it's very important to communicate that with people face to face. There's nothing like a face-to-face conversation, because not only do you see their body language and you listen to what they're saying, you're able to reflect off of each other. And like I said, it's also a very good way of solving problems and finding solutions to resolve other problems in the world. I guess in one way, social media has made the world smaller. It's brought us closer together, but it has also made us very separate as individuals. So let's come out of our shells. Let's come out behind the curtain and let's shine that light together to find a new day and a better time together with each other. So here's my quote. The village. Unity by openness and the willpower for helping one another. Keeping an eye out for the young and old. Sharing your experiences and teaching others what you have learned. Expectations or demands back in return. An open heart and positive mindset to reach goals together. Respect, love, and peace. Well, that's about it for this episode, ladies and gentlemen. But before I go, I'd like to thank my guest, Keith Foster, for coming on and sharing his experiences and his ideas about how he sees a village and social media. And remember, we need to communicate face to face sometimes in order to get our point across. Until next time. You can find me on all platforms like Spotify, Android, and Apple. On Facebook, look for My Positive Podcast, and my website is mypositivepodcast.com. You can also contact me via my website or Facebook. A very special thanks to my technical producer, Iswan. This show is a production by Antwerp Podcast Service. My name is Eddie C., and this was MPP, My Positive Podcast. Tune in next time and stay positive.